Welcome, you're watching Times Now with me, Priya Behel, and the story that we are focusing on right now comes from Karnataka, where the state Congress chief DK Shivkumar today appeared before a special court in Delhi after summons were issued to him in connection with the 2018 money laundering case. While the Congress has been accusing the BJP of targeting DK Shivkumar because of his political clout, Times Now has accessed details of the probe that he is facing in the case. Enforcement Directorate sources have revealed to us the plan that DK Shivkumar and his associates had hatched to shield him from the investigation. Remember, the Income Tax Department had found 8.5 crore rupees at his flat in Delhi back in 2017. ED sources are saying that this cash belonged to DK Shivkumar and was unaccounted, that had been transported from Bengaluru to Delhi. The initial plan was for the aides of DK Shivkumar to claim that this money belonged to them. But when it was linked to DK Shivkumar, the Congress leader told the agencies that it was agricultural income. But despite this claim, he was unable to provide details to back them. He could not give details of the land, the expenses, as well as the income from those. The ED probe has also revealed that DK Shivkumar allegedly told his aide that he can handle all law enforcement agencies. Despite the money trail, despite what the sources are telling us, despite his failure to show the source of his income, DK Shivkumar still says he is being targeted because of political allegiances.
We know that BJP is playing a vindictive politics. We all suffer just because of Ahmed Patel election. I had to face all these things. Now Ahmed Patel is our leader and a friend. He is no more. But still suffering is going on. Forget myself. Almost more than 100 people of my family, friends, supporters, well-wishers, all of them have been harassed. There is a big story by it. But today, after a very long time, they have issued a charge sheet and they have summoned me.
Do you think it's going to impact the upcoming Karnataka elections by any chance, as far as the image is concerned, sir?
Let me discuss later.
To understand the intricacies of this case, both political as well as legal, I'm now joined by my colleagues Samya, Imran, Bhavtosh and Madhav also on the broadcast. Bhavtosh, coming to you first. Tell us what really have the ED sources been telling you that blows hole in the defense that has been put up by DK Shivkumar and his team so far?
Priya, as you rightly said, that this investigation goes way back in 2017 when the Income Tax Department first carried out countrywide searches, and the prosecution of complaint of the Enforcement Directorate. Cognizance of that was taken by the Enforcement Directorate, and then in 2019 DK Shivkumar and his aides were subsequently arrested. Now, the charge sheet in this case has finally been filed in May. The court has taken cognizance of that, and today he was in fact summoned. Because he's out on bail, the court has now given a new date of hearing. Samya, in fact, had got the copy of this prosecution complaint. Now, the interesting part of this prosecution complaint is the Enforcement Directorate observation. They have said that when option ran out and when the court refused to give any relief to DK Shivkumar aides, they started claiming that the unaccounted cash belonged to them. DK Shivkumar, when he joined the probe, he refused to admit that the seized cash belonged to him, and he said that only 41 lakh rupees was his agriculture income. When ED confronted him with the income tax return, he could not explain the income, expense and the land details. Now, that's very interesting that he was not even aware the income that was generated, the expenses and also the land details. Back to you.
Right. Madhav, coming to you next. Now this money trail, when it has been linked to DK Shivkumar today, he is coming out to say that I am being made a victim because of Ahmed Patel. Now we do know that the action in this case picked up pace when Gujarat elections were happening for the post of Rajya Sabha. Tell our viewers about what is the Ahmed Patel link in this case.
Well, it is very, very important and very interesting that DK Shivkumar has cited Ahmed Patel when a direct question has been asked, because the charges, as Bhavtosh was telling us, in that particular charge sheet are against people who are associates of DK Shivkumar, and the allegation of the Enforcement Directorate in that charge sheet, it will of course have to ultimately be proved in a court of law. But the allegation is that that is money who, through his associates, it was being sent to that particular apartment of an employee of Karnataka Bhavan, and that's DK Shivkumar's money, which was unaccounted cash which, as Bhavtosh was describing, was later described as agricultural income. But the context of this is very important. Yes, it was during the course of the Rajya Sabha election. Yes, Gujarat was one area where there was a lot of controversy in terms of how those legislators were moved around. And it's not just the case of Gujarat legislators. Remember that DK Shivkumar, for a good part of the last 2 decades, has been a person who has handled legislators coming in from different states across the country, whether it is Madhya Pradesh, whether it is Gujarat, whether it's Maharashtra. Whenever there's been crisis, whenever there's been allegations of potential make or break or legislators and the horse trading happening, DK Shivkumar is one person who the party has relied on time and again to actually keep the flock together, to ensure that there is no break as far as the Congress ranks are concerned. So he is a very important person in that light. Now, of course, he also happens to be the state unit chief of the KPCC or the Karnataka Pradesh Congress Committee, and therefore it remains to be seen now whether the party is going to continue backing him. Yes, Congress and other opposition parties have time and again said that agencies are being misused to target them for political reasons. In this case now, with the charge sheet also having come out, will the Congress continue to back DK Shivkumar to the hilt as they have been in the past? DK Shivkumar certainly is continuing with the line that he, of course, is being politically targeted, and of course a case which involved Ahmed Patel, he is unnecessarily being dragged into. Remains to be seen what the Congress has to officially say as far as this matter is concerned.
Samya, you have spoken to DK Shivkumar. It's interesting that in the information that has come out, it is mentioned that one of his own aides, Anjanya, has told the Enforcement Directorate about what was the role in money laundering, etc. And there is one point where it is mentioned that he said that I can handle the enforcement agencies, the law enforcement agencies, as a party that has often alleged that it is all political vendetta. Even today, he once again said in his bite to you that it is BJP that is making political capital out of this case. Where does DK Shivkumar's defense stand right now? Samya, can you hear me? Right,
Well, as far as DK Shivakumar's case is concerned, remember his accomplices have also been named in this particular charge sheet by the ED. Although he maintains that the charge sheet was not received by him or his accomplices, the matter came up in Rouse Avenue Court. Another date has been fixed for the next hearing when the ED will be allowed to register their objection to his bail. And that date is 30th July. Now, interestingly, this matter dates to 2018, and when we spoke to DK Shivakumar today, he categorically maintained that these institutions are being misused to further the government's agenda as far as vindictiveness is concerned. And he also went on to say that he has got nothing to do with it, but his friends and families are constantly being harassed. He referred to Ahmed Patel, who was the then treasurer of the Congress party, and he said all these matters pertains to him. But remember, the charge sheet holds the names of his accomplices, his friends, Sachin Narayan and Suresh Kumar. These are the two other people who have been named in the charge sheet, although DK Shivakumar maintains that this is not going to impact the upcoming Karnataka elections. But the fact remains that, of course, if, remember, he was put behind bars, he was detained and arrested and 3 years ago. So if that happens, if his bail has been cancelled, then if DK Shivakumar will be back in the dock, and that is going to be like a huge loss for the Congress party in the upcoming Karnataka Assembly. So we have to wait and see on 30th July now when the next date of hearing comes up, when DK Shivakumar will have to present himself once again before the Rouse Avenue Court.
Right, and ahead of that presentation in court, he's been alleging that it is all a political conspiracy by the BJP. They are trying to build pressure. We've got